Welcome to Popcorn Bucket List, and it's the Winter Spectacular. My name is Nick Dahlhoff, and I am your host of this show. And you may be wondering, why is it a Winter Spectacular? Basically just because we're covering 2 months, and they happen to be taking place during the winter. That's pretty much the only reason why. Sitting right next to me, he is my partner in crime. He brings more joy to people than Santa Claus himself. It's Mr. Ryan Meyerberg.
Thank you again for having me. And as you can see this week, I'm wearing my Amon Amarth t-shirt. They are a Swedish hard rock heavy metal band. If you haven't listened to them, check them out. They're pretty good.
Yep, check them out. I'm wearing Star Wars for no particular reason.
No particular reason.
Why would we have anything to talk about Star Wars in the coming month? That's called foreshadowing, folks. So like I said before, we're going to be covering both December and January because we're going to take a little break over the holiday season. Plus January, there really isn't that much to offer, as some of you will see.
Not good.
We're going to trudge through a lot of stuff here. But first things first, we're going to talk about box office for the month of November. So let's take first a look at who won the box office pick of the month of November. Let's throw that up on the screen now. Ryan took it with Frozen 2. I'm starting to lose count now. I think that's 4 in a row for box office now, I think.
I don't quite have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's definitely up there. It's up there.
Let's take a look at the top 5 here and see where it's stacked up with the other movies. Coming in at number 5 was Midway. This was a historical piece dealing with the Battle of Midway. Overall, actually, when you look at this top 5 list, however, it was a pretty low month, actually. So low that coming in at number 4 with Knives Out was a Wednesday release.
Yep.
The only big day this movie had was on that Friday over the Thanksgiving holiday, where it got a big push, and it pushed it into the top 5. Another big surprise dealing with box office-wise, Terminator was actually considered to be a box office bomb.
Yeah.
And it still made it to number 3.
It's one of those, it just made enough to make it into the top 5.
Yeah. Then coming in at number 2, Ford v Ferrari. This is another little historical story dealing with the Le Mans race of the Ford company versus the Ferrari company. There was a little bit of beef there, and they duked it out at the 24-hour race at Le Mans. Pretty good.
Good film.
Showing as far as box office wise. Coming in at number 1 with that final spot. Not only did you pick the winner in our picks here, but you picked the number 1 spot. It was no surprise. Frozen 2 was the smash hit of the month. If we can look at that graphic again, just to compare, over 100 mil, blowing out of the water all the other competitors here. Not even close to the others.
Even all the rest of the 4 combined would be close to that.
Clearly Disney knows what they're doing here, as they've shown us time and time again.
Yep.
So, again, not a lot of big stories dealing with the box office here. We kind of knew that going into this month. The big one was going to be the reviews. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to go into the review portion of the month. Catch us coming up after the break on Popcorn Bucket List.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt, excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.
Welcome back to Popcorn Bucket List. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the review category of things. Again, if you remember back to our past episode, we knew this was going to be a competitive month.
We did. There was no, at least back then, we thought there was no clear standout or clear, this film is going to be the one to critically look out for.
Yep, exactly. So first things first, let's look at who won the review pick. Throw that up on the screen now here. Again, we're seeing a pattern here. You keep winning the box office. I keep winning the reviews. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks takes it. Let's see how it's stacked up here with some of the other top 5 contenders. Looking at the top 5, we've got Harriet coming in at number 5. This was, again, a little bit one that flew under the radar financially, but another historical drama. That's another theme here, is there was a lot of historical dramas coming out this month as well, but comes in at a 85.5% average rating. Usually in past months, we've seen these 4s and 5s be in the 70s range. This is one of the first months where we've seen the 5th one already hitting
in those 80s. Yep. And like that's it's nice to see that a good portion of films, the top 5 are in that, you know, top 20% of the rating chart, which that's very good score. I like it. It's nice.
Continuing that trend in the 80 percentile is the Queen and Slim film. Again, another one that didn't have a lot of press going into it, really, but coming in at an 88.5% rating. Any other month, this would be a top 3, top 2 contender, especially. Just really shows how competitive this month really was. But showing us back here in the top 5, coming in at number 3 with a 94%, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Obviously not a surprise there. But looking at our top 2 that were actually tied as far as average Rotten Tomatoes score, coming in at number 2 was Knives Out. Again, and tied with it was Ford v. Ferrari. 2 very good, very well-received films.
And that's also another thing, because both those 2 films did decently well in the box office, and you don't always get that where there's a lot of promotion, a lot of push, the film makes a good chunk of money. It doesn't always mean it's going to get a good score, and that was really refreshing. And we'll get into these 2 films later in the episode, but that was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. But with that, it's time for number 1 recommends. You kind of foreshadow it. We may be talking about 1 or 2 of these movies here again. Ryan, why don't you tell us which one was your number 1 recommend of the month?
All right. Well, my number 1 recommend of the month, has to be the film Knives Out. It is absolutely a joyride to go on. Now, when I first saw the trailer, it was like, is this going to be more funny? Is this going to be more suspicious, like a mystery? Is this going to be more like a whodunit clue? I couldn't really get a good vibe of what the movie was going to be about. And then when I finally sat down and got the opportunity to watch it, absolutely loved it. It was funny. It was scary. That was another thing I was going to bring up. It's original. This is not a book or a magazine or somebody else's story or adapted for the screen. This was, what was his name?
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson, yeah, excuse me. This was his own story. He created, this is just what he did. And like, it was a completely original story, and I absolutely loved it. The acting was great. The storyline was fantastic. Twists and turns throughout the whole thing. Great film. Highly recommend it.
It feels like the movie tries to convince you for the longest time that it's going to be this certain answer.
Yes.
And then when you finally, but it's one of those movies where you suspect there's going to be a plot twist. And so finally, by the time you accept that maybe this is going to be the right answer, it throws one last curveball at you, and you realize, oh, no, that's not exactly the answer.
Yep. You kind of, it's fantastic. Your mind is thinking the whole time, and then you start to look back and think, well, what did they mean when they said that? Because it didn't kind of make sense the way they were talking, but now that makes complete sense. So it's a very well-made film. Very well-made film.
Again, highly recommend. My number 1 recommend of the month, however, is going to be the other 95%er. It's Ford v. Ferrari. As I mentioned in the last episode, I'm a big racing fan. I love racing movies. So already going into this movie, I was pretty hyped for it, essentially. And it really didn't let me down in really any sense. I thought the acting, especially from Christian Bale, he is one of the best actors we have at our disposal nowadays. He goes all out for this role. Matt Damon's really good. A lot of the supporting cast works. The racing scenes are so well directed and so well edited, in my opinion, that it just makes you feel like you're at Le Mans, you're on the track, racing along with them side by side. You can feel that speed and that energy. Even though you're sitting motionless in your theater chair, you feel like you're going down those tracks the same way.
And I think one thing that goes with both these films is the accents that the actors were able to pull off. Like Daniel Craig's accent was it's not what you would expect, you know, coming from James Bond and some of these other films, and then he's got that southern, like almost out like Kentucky.
They
forgive me, yeah, they make a joke about it
a couple times in the film.
Yeah,
I think is how southern draw he is.
And
He's one of the most British actors we have.
Yeah, and, Christian Bale's his accent that he puts on. Sometimes there's a couple words. It's like what? What did he say?
Yeah.
But it flows and it sounds good. It's nice to listen to.
Every time you hear Christian Bale speak in his regular voice, it's amazing to hear him do any accent outside of that. So those are our number one recommends for this month. We encourage you to go check out those movies. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to tackle the huge task. This is going to take up a majority of the show. We're going to go over 2 months of movies. We're going to go over December and January. Some of it's going to be fun. Some of it is going to feel like work, but we're here to do it. So catch us after the break here on Popcorn Bucket List.
A Dog's Way Home is the story of the extraordinary lengths a dog will go to in order to get back to their family. Every year, millions of dogs and cats end up in shelters and rescue groups. We found our Bella at a shelter in Tennessee. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover they're all pure love. Adopt pure love and help a shelter pet find their way home at theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to Popcorn Bucket List. We are now moving on to the preview section of the show. This is kind of the main part of the show where we want to get you back to the movie theaters and let you know what to go check out. Again, we've got a lot to cover here. We're going over December. We're going over January. We're going over 2 months. That's twice the preview.
And some expected big movies and some expected not so big movies. It's a wide array of what we're going to go over here.
So let's not dilly-dally. Let's move right into the first weekend of December. That is December 6th. One of the first movies coming out here is The Aeronauts. Again, another interesting historical drama based on the true story of a scientist and a widow who are trying to break the highest altitude record. This stars Felicity Jones as well as Eddie Redmayne. Two very prestigious actors of our time, so expect some pretty good performances out of it. Also coming out that same weekend is Playmobil, the movie, trying to get that same gold as the Lego movie did, I guess. Not a lot is known about this one.
To be honest, I had not heard of this until we were prepping for the show.
This one was a mystery to me as well. A lot of these I look up the IMDb synopsis. The IMDb synopsis was basically, this is a film based off the toy brand Playmobil. And for those of you who think I'm exaggerating, go look it up yourself. It's not much more than that. But coming out that next weekend, December 13th, this is just a couple weeks before Christmas. However, we have our first Christmas movie of December, so to speak. It's Black Christmas. This is actually a Christmas horror movie set in a college sorority. And
Can't wait.
Just about all I need to say about that one. You can pretty much picture the rest there.
If you like horror movies, it's probably worth checking out.
The other movies coming out that are actually some pretty big ones, got some big following on them. Jumanji, The Next Level. The first Jumanji was a massive hit for Sony. Big surprise there. So you got a lot of the cast coming back, as well as some more people. This time, it's also including Danny DeVito and Danny Glover. They're going to get sucked into the game as well. So we're going to see some big stars like Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart doing Danny DeVito and Danny Glover impressions. So
can't wait.
See how that works. But also coming out that weekend is a film called Richard Jewell.
Another historical picture that
There's
we're talking about.
There's a lot of history coming out these past few months. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention to your history class, here's a chance for you to catch up. But this is actually a Clint Eastwood movie, which kind of surprised me because usually his projects gain a little bit more publicity. I hadn't heard that this was a Clint Eastwood project till about a week ago, I think, before we did show prep. So really interesting story. It's a movie about a security guard who was present at the Olympics bombing in Atlanta back in 1996, who actually helped save a lot of lives during that event. But actually, people tried to pin the event on him. I was just telling you earlier, the episode trailer came on TV the other day. I think it was we were watching some football game. Maybe it was over Thanksgiving, and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. They tried to pin it all on him, and they said it was his fault because why would he know that it was in the bag and stuff?" And I was like, "Whoa, yeah,
I gotta gotta learn more about this. So I'm really excited to see this. I think it's gonna be
this one's on my list as well.
Honestly, Clint Eastwood, he is getting older. He is getting older, but he's still putting out some good films.
Yeah. Coming out that very next weekend, this is probably the biggest weekend of December here, December 20th, right before Thanksgiving. So it will carry...
right before Christmas.
Right before Christmas. Yep. Thank you very much. One of the movies coming out is Cats. This is the film based off the hit Broadway musical Cats.
Yeah.
There's been some interesting talk about this one.
Watching the trailer, it's I don't know what to say. They're cats.
Yeah,
they're
cats.
not people. They're not real cats. They're people cats.
And they dance.
And they dance. Yeah. So it's
You know what? For the theater nerds out there who love it, I commend them, and they're probably going to show up for this one.
They will.
We saw with Greatest Showman, there is an audience out there for those who love Broadway and theater and stuff like that. So there will be an audience for this. It'll probably make some money. However, it's going up against one of the biggest juggernauts in all of cinema, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Why any movie comes out the same weekend as a Star Wars movie baffles me every time.
And the only thing I could think is if they're hoping the people that aren't going to Star Wars want to go and watch a movie, it's almost with the other movie coming out, they're aiming for a different crowd. They're not aiming for the 95% of everybody going to movies that weekend. They're trying to snag up the 5%.
Well, another movie that's trying to compete for that 5% is Bombshell. This is the movie that tells the story about Roger Ailes and the whole thing that happened over at Fox News. This one also has some pretty interesting cast members as well. Margot Robbie is in this. Charlize Theron is in this, as well as Nicole Kidman is in this. I remember the first time I saw the trailer, Charlize Theron looked almost unrecognizable to me.
Yep.
Like I remember hearing, oh, she's going to be in this movie. I'm like, that's weird. She wasn't in the trailer. And then I rewatched. I'm like, no, she's one of those chameleon actors we call them, where they just completely go into the role and just was unrecognizable.
Yep.
Coming out that next Wednesday, actually on Christmas Day, we saw this with Thanksgiving as well. Sometimes movies will come out right before a major holiday. But coming out December 25th is a couple of other little movies as well to round out the month of December. One of them is called Little Woman. This is actually a period piece set shortly after the Civil War. One of the big things going in with this movie is it's written and directed by Greta Gerwig, who has had a pretty good streak recently. And it also stars some of the biggest female actors in Hollywood right now. So that one, probably look forward to some really good performance pieces there.
Yep.
Coming out also that same weekend is Spies in Disguise. This is an animated spy movie starring Will Smith and Tom Holland, who I think it's pretty safe to say have had pretty good years this year. So that rounds out the month of December here. Lots to choose from, a lot of genres to look at. But now we're going to keep moving on into January. Ryan, we've talked about January before.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe January was when we did our very first pilot, was reviewing January.
Yep, I think you're right.
Let's talk about what's up with January.
First, I'm going to throw back to some of my experience in the movie theater industry when I used to work at a movie theater. January is what's commonly known as the dump month. It's where studios put films that maybe aren't going to do very well, aren't expected to make a lot of money, maybe films that they didn't put a lot of time or effort or money behind. So if they don't do well, that's okay. This is where films go to be played for the public. You can check every year, years past, a lot of not great films come out in January. And it doesn't mean not every single one's bad. Yeah. That's not what that means. It's just sometimes a studio, you can't put it up against with Avengers or Star Wars. You can't put it in the same months as those because you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. So your best chance is come to January, see if you can win January. Yeah. So, yeah, well, and with that, we'll just hop right in here on the very first week.
Why don't you take January 3rd? You actually had to explain this movie to me.
Yeah, The Grudge. I haven't looked too hard or too much into it, but it is either a remake or a reboot of The Grudge, which was originally a Japanese film, and then they made one maybe 10 years ago. So like there's a couple Grudge films, whether they're all American or Japanese, I couldn't tell you. I haven't seen them all. I know I've seen one or two, but I do remember being scared when I was younger. So that I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be interesting, and I'll watch it. But yeah, I don't have my hopes set too high. So.
Moving on to the next weekend in January, January 10th, we have a couple of movies. Actually, this is probably one of the bigger weekends of the month. One being The Informer. This is a Joel Kinnaman. I believe I'm saying that right. I'm probably not, though. I'm very bad with names. He was an ex-con who now becomes a police informer and is now put inside of a max security prison. So possibly a good action movie there. We'll have to wait and see how that one shakes up. Another one coming out that month, Like a Boss. This is a comedy starring Rose Byrne, Salma Hayek, and Tiffany Haddish, where it's kind of more of a corporate big guy versus the little guy kind of movie where they're trying to start their own little business. Big corporate tries to come down and crush their dreams.
Crush them, yeah.
So again, a comedy movie there to check out. Another comedy movie coming out, My Spy. This is a Dave Bautista-led movie. We haven't seen much of those. This might be one of the first where he's really the big lead.
Yeah.
He's done pretty good in supporting roles. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy. Although I didn't like the movie so much, Spectre, I feel like he wasn't given a lot to work with, but he's had some pretty good supporting roles. So it'll be interesting to see how he does kind of leading his own action comedy in this case. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. The other movie coming out that month is Underwater. This is a Kristen Stewart-led action horror movie, so to speak, where it takes place underwater. Bet you didn't see that coming.
No. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty excited to watch Underwater. I think it's going to be very interesting. I like the horror aspect of it, and I like the underwater, the kind of, it's like a new playing field almost. You don't see a whole lot of movies strictly underwater. Aquaman, but
horror movies especially. Usually it's dealing with a shark and you're kind of above water, staying away from it, something like that.
We were kind of talking earlier about Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson after, Twilight. A lot of people kind of cast them down a little bit, but they've actually been around, been doing films, and actually been making a pretty good career for themselves. And I think this is going to be this could be a good role for her, and I'm excited to see it.
So moving on to the next weekend here, we're looking at January 17th. Two big ones coming out that weekend. The first one being Bad Boys for Life. This is Michael Bay's third installment to the Bad Boys franchise, continuing Will Smith's streak here. We'll have to see if this one also performs big or if he does well in it as well.
Can't wait. It's Bad Boys. Everybody's seen the first two. They know the song. Gonna be great.
Also coming out that weekend is Doolittle. This is a Robert Downey Jr. remake about a vet who can talk to animals. This was a previous movie series. I believe Eddie Murphy was one of the first ones to, or did one of the more recent remakes at least. And so now we're going to get another take here with RDJ.
Yep. So it'll be interesting that his dynamic to see how he interacts as a veterinarian. We're used to him blowing things up and being the smartest guy in the room, and now he can talk to animals. So it'll be an interesting shift, but I'm excited to see it. So.
Coming out the very next weekend, January 24th, we've got a couple movies coming out there. One of them called The Gentleman. This is another one that there's really not a lot to go off here as far as publicity or anything like that. But this is a Guy Ritchie, he's a famous British director, movie dealing with a British drug lord making deals with Oklahoma billionaires. And again, that's based off the IMDb synopsis there. Yep. So we'll have to see if a little bit more information comes out on that one.
Yep.
But a couple of other movies coming out that same weekend. Again, I'm going to be completely honest. When I looked up the IMDb synopsis of these, a couple of these I just copied and pasted. There's not a lot to go off here.
Yep.
Run, The best I can tell you, it's a homeschooled teenager who begins to suspect her mother is keeping a dark secret from her.
Yep.
Don't know why it's called Run.
I watched the trailer for this, and it looked like a lot of teens free running and talking about their freedom to free run. And that's about all I got out of it. So I don't know what it's going to be about, but
I feel like that sentence right there convinced me more about this movie than the IMDb synopsis right there.
So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
The other movie coming out that month or that weekend is The Turning. It's a dramatic horror mystery.
Yep.
That's all I got.
The only thing I can tell you is it's got one of the
I'm
kids.
stretching here, people. I don't know what to tell you.
It's got one of the kids from Stranger Things in it. So
Yep, that's true.
I saw that, and he was like whipping a horse in the trailer that I saw, like the 10 seconds I saw, and I was like, oh, this looks
One of the downsides of us doing
Interesting.
this next month so early is maybe more information will come out about some of these movies, but it's the Winter Spectacular, so we're covering a lot of winter.
That's right.
So keep an eye out for some of those. Maybe more information will come out, hopefully, with that. But rounding out the month of January, we're almost home, buddy.
Almost there. Almost homeward bound.
We got a couple more to talk about. Coming out January 31st is Gretel and Hansel. This is another take on the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale. This time, the names are switched.
Yep. So
Hollywood, ladies and
Hollywood.
gentlemen, always
It's
fresh
original.
for ideas.
It's original.
It's a new idea because we switched the names.
yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm hoping it's a little bit darker tone, kind of like the Brothers Grimm were a little bit darker.
Yep.
So if it's got a dark tone to it, I think that'd be enjoyable and a little bit refreshing for just for that series or that brand. So it'll be interesting to see.
Also coming out that same weekend is The Rhythm Section. This is another one I copy and pasted from the IMDb because the pitch seems so interesting to me. A woman seeks revenge against those who orchestrated a plane crash that killed her family. But as weird as that does kind of sound to me, one thing that is reassuring to me is it stars Blake Lively and Sterling K. Brown. These are two very good actors. I love them in pretty much anything they're in. So hopefully they can carry this movie then.
Yep. It'll be, like I said, hopefully we'll get some more information, get another trailer too, and we'll just see where it goes.
Yep. But with that, it is time for, I think it's this guy's favorite part of the show. Hopefully it's yours too. It's time for us to make our picks for best box office and best reviewed. We did another little coin flip before the show.
I'm just killing the coin
Somehow,
flips. This guy,
he always wins the coin toss. To no one's surprise, Ryan, will you pick your pick for box office?
I will let you know. My pick for box office happens to be Star Wars. I don't know if it's the past Star Wars or the Disney behind them or what, but I have a feeling it will be the best box office numbers.
Just a little weird feeling there that maybe that'll pull it off.
You know, I got a weird feeling that it will not only pull it off, but it will crush everything.
Well, you think you've got it in the bag, sir, but I maybe have the upset pick for you.
Okay.
Jumanji: The Next Level. You guys got to remember, when this came out, nobody expected it to be good. It was really good. It was one of Sony's biggest hits, financially speaking. So hopefully, with the returning cast, and even then some, with that 3-day box office total that we base this off of, maybe, just maybe, Cats will steal just enough of the Star Wars box office. I'm relying on Cats.
You never know.
That's how desperate I am for the box office picks. I'm relying on Cats.
Oh, yeah. We'll just wait and see. You never know.
Yeah. So now moving on to the review portion of the picks, I'll start us off on that one. My pick for the best reviewed is Richard Jewell. When we were talking about in the preview, the intrigue we were both kind of giving off there alone, I think, will draw people to this movie. Because either A, you were around at that time and you maybe want more information, or B, like me, who wasn't even born yet, I had no idea about this. I had heard about the bombings, but I had no idea that they try to pin it on this one guy.
Yep.
So we'll hopefully see and hopefully that one will make the top 5, if not the number 1 spot.
I'm going with my pick for Little Woman. I think it's a very strong female cast. Period pieces sometimes can do very well critically. And I just, with Greta Gerwig's, her past couple of films, you said she's been on the right track, getting bigger and bigger. So I'm taking a shot in the dark, and I'm going with Little Woman. I'm hoping the critics and the fans like it. So that's my pick.
So those are our picks for box office as well as review. We're gonna, like I said before, take a break into this end of the month, so we won't be able to see how a lot of these shake up until way at the tail end of January. So it's gonna be a while till we come back. But for now, we want to thank you for watching us so far. We hope to see you into the next year. We hope to see you in the movie theater in the next year. For myself and Ryan Meyerberg, this has been Popcorn Bucket List Winter Spectacular.